after October to November of this year, we are seeing a significant shift, especially looking at exactly around 6th of November or so. After that, there is a possibility of a major problem for Ukraine.
Narendra Modi is already in talks with Putin for peace settlement. Do you see any kind of astrological combinations for like a country from South Asia or its leader trying to intervene and bring about peace between these nations? What do you think about Ukraine really joining the European Union? Do you think there is any possibility?
Hopefully, something really good happens and the world becomes a more peaceful place. But unfortunately, astrologically, it doesn't look like that.
Do you also see any broader global effects of this war happening astrologically?
Astrologically, yes. I am quite sure that 2025 is going to also see a significant other theatre of conflict opening up, potentially this time in the waters and potentially in the South China Sea.
I heard that you have been invited to Russia.
Yes.
Hello Abhigya, welcome on my podcast. Hope you're doing good. And today, of course, we have a very serious topic on hand, and that is the tension between Ukraine and Russia, which is really troubling the entire world because it's almost causing this third world war kind of a panic scenario. And for those who don't know about what is really transpiring, let me just in a nutshell explain to you. Ukraine and Russia both were a part of the Soviet Union until 1991. Once they separated, Ukraine decided that they want to now join the European Union, to which Russia was not really happy because Russia thought that Ukraine will now become a European ally, which they didn't want. And the entire tension point between Ukraine and Russia is just this one move about Ukraine joining the European Union and the NATO. Now in 2013, the then ruling president Viktor Yanukovych suddenly decided that he wants to betray the agreement of joining the European Union, and now he wanted to favor Russia. To which the people in Ukraine who were pro joining the European Union protested. There was a mass protest all over the country, and it led to the Maidan revolution in 2013-14, which became the start point of tension between Ukraine and Russia. Now, after giving a gist to the people of what has transpired, Abhigya, I'm really looking forward to asking you this question. What are the planetary positions going on in Ukraine right now, or perhaps since 2013, that is leading to this massive chaos and chaotic situation escalating into a war pattern in Ukraine?
So basically, I have used the chart of Ukraine to calculate why all of this happened in Ukraine and everything. Basically, Ukraine was founded in its present form as Ukraine, as the country Ukraine, on the 24th of August 1991 at 5:55 p.m. local time in Kiev. And I did some research to get the right and accurate time when the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine actually recognized and accepted the document that laid the fate of the Ukrainian people for the next couple of generations. So what we've been seeing since then has been instability, political disruption, and a lot of problems. So I just was very curious to understand why this has been the case. So when I created the chart for Ukraine, one thing that was just very clear from the chart was that Rahu was occupying the Lagna, the north node of the moon. And also around the same time, the Lagna was 22 degrees in Dhanus Rashi, and Rahu was just ahead of it by 2 degrees. So it is so close, which means that just before that document was tabled, actually speaking, the Lagna had just crossed, the Lagna, just after the document had been tabled, the Lagna was about to cross Rahu's position, which is actually very dangerous as per Jyotisha. Not only that, we also had the aspect of Mars on Rahu, and we had Shani and the moon both in the second house, leading to long-term economic stagnation, and the people of Ukraine never got to enjoy the minerals and resources owing to the corruption in the country and so many other problems. All of this culminated in 2013, and I used the Ashtottari Dasha for countries which have Rahu in the Lagna and Ketu in the 7th house or anywhere else in Kendras. We don't use Vimshottari Dasha much when such a combination is detected. If you go by the Vimshottari Dasha, it would be Jupiter Mahadasha and Venus Antardasha as per the Raman Pushya Paksha Ainamshas. when you go by the Ashtottari Dasha, we had the Rahu Mahadasha was running, and the Mars Antardasha started precisely on in August 2013 till June of 2014. And it's very important to note that the first invasion of Crimea by Russia, or occupation of Crimea, happened exactly around February and March 2014. So this happened just within the Mars Antardasha of the Rahu Mahadasha in the Ashtottari Dasha scheme, which is very intriguing. And Mars is also aspecting the Lagna. Rahu is very close to the degree of the Lagna, and Mars's aspect is also quite important. It creates a lot of aggression and a lot of crisis for the country, and along with that, all the corruption that had already been going on, the vacuum of power, everything actually went bad for Ukraine starting 2007. If you look at it in reality, 2007 is that point when corruption became widespread, oligarchy and other problems came into picture. Later on, there was a great confusion among the people of Ukraine whether to be part of Russia, or whether to align with Russia, or whether to be part of the European Union, and that later led to very violent skirmish after 2013. So ever since then, I think within the Rahu Mahadasha in the Ashtottari Dasha scheme, Ukraine has been in trouble. Looking at the transits, we have looked at the chart of Ukraine, which gives us a very, very clear implication. Some astrologers, do not use dashas for countries, etc. But I have very clear evidence as well as logic to say that you can use dashas for countries also, because they're a collection of people. There are dashas that apply to them, and if they are long lasting, you can just go to the next cycle of the dasha. So that's a topic for another day, but using the chart, this is what we see. Using the transits as well, that time was quite unfavorable. Jupiter was just passing through the Sandhi, the Gandanta between Kataka and Simha, which is also quite dangerous. And on the other hand side, we had Shani also, which was right in the second house from Ukraine's area. When Ukraine was founded, Shani was in the second house from the Lagna. So it was quite a dangerous period, actually speaking. So I think all of this together contributed to whatever happened in 2013. The dashas as well as the transits, which have an effect of that sort. And Shani was also exalted around that period, and Guru was also in quite a serious condition. So I think that's the reason why all of this happened.
Okay, so you're taking the start point of independent Ukraine as its time of birth, and and the place of birth and all of that. Okay.
That's right. We have done this for India and for Bharata, and we've observed that the August 15th chart, just within minutes of the August 15th, 1947, that chart also had such clear implications for our country. We also have very similar problematic positions. Of course, that's an entirely, very important subject to discuss. But the first 48 years of our country's existence was also very difficult for our people, for our military. Although we had some amazing successes and we were able to come up in the world, still the first 48 years were a period of intense difficulty. And after that ended, I think the whole country is beginning to transform. Similarly, even for Ukraine, the first 48 years at least are going to be very, very difficult for the country, in my humble opinion. And that is at least until this Rahu period, so that's actually until the Venus period mid part comes into picture. Probably after 2032 or something, Ukraine can get better to an extent. But before that, it's definitely going to be in trouble.
Okay, would you have the horoscopes of Putin or Zelensky to kind of elaborate on probably their decisions and their destinies?
I have those details, but I won't be able to disclose them in the present discussion. But it is more than sufficient to look at the direct horoscope of the country itself to understand the situation of the country and the future of the country. So after 2019 August, since the Venus Mahadasha in the Ashtottari scheme has started, and within that the Antardasha that is presently that happened when the war was running was also that of Venus. And recently, in the present moment, the Surya Antardasha is running, after which the moon period begins in November of 2024. After November of 2024, Ukraine has to be definitely very careful, because the period has changed from sun to the moon and it's quite dangerous. But as far as Zelensky is concerned, I think it's going to be fine to a large extent. It's after 29 that we see a probability of a change in terms of the regime. As far as Putin is concerned, I don't have very accurate details as of now, but I think I will be able to, make a comment in the near future.
So, what are your astrological predictions for Russia?
So last year, when the Russian, people from the Russian media came to Mysore for an interview, I told them that 2024 March and before that, just after December, is a dangerous period for Russia, at least until August or September of 2024. And I, repeatedly, was telling them to convey the message to their leaders or something and their people that it's better to reduce the scale and intensity of the war or just stop it before December. We had this interview in November, but in March then we had a terrorist attack on Russia, and then followed by a lot of other attacks from Ukraine as part of the war. And I think till November of this year, it looks quite bad for Russia, and consecutively kind of good for Ukraine. But after October to November of this year, we are seeing a significant shift, especially looking at exactly around 6th of November or so. After that, there is a possibility of a major problem for Ukraine, which will last till 2027 October. I had mentioned last time that there could be a minor reduction in the war or something of that sort around last year, November or October 2023. That's also when the Israel-Palestine conflict came into picture. So the limelight on the Russia-Ukraine conflict reduced, but then nevertheless the war again continued, and a lot of violent events happened this year. So I don't expect this to end anytime soon. Even if it does end, it will only be temporary. This problem is going to escalate further after 2027 most likely.
Do you see any kind of third party intervention for peace between the two countries? Like we all know that our Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is already in talks with Putin for peace settlement. Do you see any kind of astrological combinations for like maybe a country from South Asia or its leader trying to intervene and bring about peace between these nations?
Yes, I think that's possible, but that will probably happen after November of this year, probably because the horoscope is actually showing a lot of violence and a lot of difficulties. But I think with the effort of a lot of countries, it's possible. But I don't think it will be 100% success overall. After November, when Ukraine is in a position wherein it will be quite vulnerable, I believe a peace plan is more likely after November of 2024 and the ensuing months after that. I think Ukraine would kind of, come to some sort of a settlement. I don't think Russia will be coming to a settlement anytime soon with Ukraine, but I think it's going to be the other way around when Ukraine is in more trouble after November of this year. This is a more likely possibility just based on the horoscope of Ukraine and of Russia also.
What do you think about Ukraine like really joining the European Union? Do you think there is any possibility, because this is the biggest threat that Russia feels, that they do not want Ukraine to be a European ally?
That's right. That's right. I think that's one of the concerns that Russia has. Primarily, it was Ukraine not being part of the NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because that would really mean that Ukraine would be on the other side of the world. So Russia did not want that to happen. And on the other hand side, Ukraine, of course, we can understand, wants a sense of security for its people as well. And Russia also, on the other hand side, wants a sense of security. So I think it's just a massive misunderstanding between these two countries. And specifically, if you look at it, Russia also at some point of time wanted to be part of the NATO. There was a time when Russia wanted to be, part of the alliance, but somehow it was not allowed to be part of the alliance. It's not just Ukraine becoming a part of the European Union that Russia is majorly worried about. It's the overall militarization of Ukraine on the other hand side of the world, which it's worried about. And I think Ukraine joining a European Union is actually very much likely. And this could happen after 2027 October in a proper and full-fledged manner, before which it's going to be very difficult for Ukraine to join. Either some steps have to be taken imminently in the next 2 months, or it's after October of 2027. Before that, I think it's going to be difficult for Ukraine to be part of the European Union. I think it's going to be proxy support mostly that we can expect from the European Union over the next 2 or 3 years. But I may be proven wrong, and hopefully, something really good happens and the world becomes a more peaceful place. But unfortunately, astrologically, it doesn't look like that. Although I keep praying every day that I'm probably proven wrong on this.
That's right. Do you also see any broader global effects of this war happening astrologically?
Astrologically, yes. So if you look at the 1935, 36, 37, what was happening at that time, we saw isolated conflicts in different parts of the world, which eventually, just combined together. For example, it's widely considered that the 1935 Italian aggression on Ethiopia was one of the major events that led to the Second World War. And it was a very, very significant event when Italy unleashed, total aggression on Ethiopia. So, and then there were other conflicts, 1936, 37, 38, gradually, and then 1934 we had Hitler being declared as the Führer of Germany. That coincided with Shani being in Kumbh Rashi. So all of these things kind of just came together slowly and gradually, which is exactly what we are seeing now. We are seeing two theaters of war that are open at the moment, and a third one that is just pending to get opened up. 2022 Russia Ukraine, 2023 the Middle East is on fire, and 2024 we are yet to see an entirely new conflict in this year. But I am quite sure that 2025 is going to also see a significant other theater of conflict opening up, potentially this time in the waters and potentially in the South China Sea. So this was my prediction when I was in Taiwan as well, that the South China Sea needs to be careful, because that is the potential third theater of war. And if these theaters just keep expanding, then by 2029, things are going to be like all set for a global conflict. But this time, however, not many people will die, even if it is a World War III kind of scenario. It's not going to be a replica of World War I or World War II, because at that time, the world was ruled by colonial powers. A few people would make decisions for the whole world at that time. I think now we are more multipolar, and as a society, we have learned a lot of lessons from the previous two wars. So I don't think that much widespread destruction is possible. The present generations, I believe, are and this is a more golden age within Kali Yuga. So I don't believe that we are actually going down as some people think. We are going slightly upward in terms of human consciousness as a whole. So I don't think a civilizational catastrophe is possible at any time in the near future. But 2029 to 32 might see a global conflict.
Let's really hope that the world is saved by an upliftment in the human consciousness, because that's all we need right now. And wars are definitely not what we deserve. Our previous generations have really suffered because of wars. I have myself read my great-grandfather's book, in which he has written and described and narrated about the Second World War, when Japan attacked Burma, and how colossally they suffered. We do not want that kind of suffering for anybody, and we really intend, hope and pray for peace.
Exactly, that's exactly what we have to do. And Bharata, being the eternal messenger of peace, our first and primary objective should be to curtail any aggression in any part of the world. Although astrologically speaking, this will have different impacts on different countries, which we can get into later. But what we should wish for as as people of this world, as responsible citizens, and also as spiritual ambassadors, we should definitely wish for peace throughout the world. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and Shanti has always been our primary motto and vision for the world. So I think we should stick to that, and we should keep praying. And if everyone prays together every single day for global peace, I think the world can be a more peaceful place, because as they have discovered, there are our positive energy and our feelings for the situations around our world do impact the world. So it's not that we are powerless and we are hopeless in the face of destiny. I think we have significant power to change what is going to happen in the future if we really want to do that. And collectively, if we do good karma, if we reduce violence towards those who are weaker than us, specifically animals, I think we can reverse the possibility of danger from those who are stronger than us. So when a war happens, what happens essentially is that the weaker ones get affected and they get destroyed, and the stronger ones generally triumph. So what we need to do is we need to show compassion towards those weaker than us, and those are animals which whom we are mistreating since eternity, which is killing them, and that's why wars are continuing since eternity. In fact, when we are more violent towards animals, those periods of humanity, those periods of history are marred by more violence towards humans. It's a very clear and simple explanation for most of the violence that we face. The more we are harmful to those who are weaker than us, the more we are going to be hurt by those who are stronger than us.
I heard that you have been invited to Russia.
Yes. So I had been invited to Russia by the Russian state television, and I know that they are an arm of the Russian government, and they wanted an interview on the future of Russia. Most of the questions they were asking me, seemed more like, strategy planning for the country, which I consciously understood, and I've always recommended in the interview as well, wherever possible. I'm not sure if my advice would be taken anywhere near any sort of circle of power or influence, but at least it has reached the people. I've conveyed the same piece that India has always conveyed, Bharat has always conveyed, Shanti. So I just talked about that in my interview, and now I've been invited to Moscow. I'll be going next month to Moscow. My trip was cancelled because of the sudden, attacks on the Domodedovo airport in Moscow. So I'll be going next month to speak about this on their national TV. Yeah.
Congratulations on that, because it really goes to prove that the world is also now recognizing the science of Vedic astrology. This is a very old science. It's ancient science of India, which dates back to 5,000 and nearly 10,000 years. And of course, we have astrological calculations that were described in the Vedas 5,000 years back by the rishis like Parashar Muni and Jaimini Guru, and they have described the universe and called it Brahmand. They have described the Navagrahas, which are basically the 9 planets, and the solar system, and they've also described the nakshatras. So there is no reason really to doubt this science. I know there are a lot of people around the world who are still confused, and Indians, of course, they were under foreign rule for a long time, for nearly 500 years, by Persians and Turks and Mongolians, basically the Mughals, and then the Brits came in. So the people in India are also, like for generations, confused about this science of astrology. My endeavor is to really bring forth this amazing Vedic astrology into limelight, and hope and pray that it helps and guides humanity in some way, and each one of us, of course. That's the reason why it's called Jyotish, which means light in darkness. Thank you so much, Abhigya, and congratulations once again. You make us really proud when you're invited to countries like Taiwan and also now Russia. You really make us proud as an astrologer who is really going places internationally with Vedic astrology. Thank you so much. I really congratulate you on that.
Dhanyawad. It's all by God's grace, and nothing is in my hands. And of course, it's the rishis who have given us this amazing science. It's with their their meditation and their hundreds of years of tapas in the years of yore, that because of which we have this great science with us. So of course, I love skepticism. I invite debate on this subject, because as Bharatiyas, we have always been open to debate in the last 5,000-10,000 years of the existence of Vedic Sanatana Dharma. Always we're open to intellectual conversation. So even when I went to Taiwan recently, I challenged I have a lot of fans there, a lot of skeptics there, a lot of people who love Jyotisha as a science, and a lot of people who actually despise it because of the previous experiences they've had with astrology. Namely, when you look at the Sunday newspapers or something, they're very overgeneralizations or highly inaccurate predictions. So we're looking to change this by giving them a rational, empirical and scientific outlook of Jyotisha. And I recently challenged people there to disprove some of the predictions made using Vedic Jyotisha. so that we can have a proper intellectual debate. If anyone is able to disprove this, even on this channel, I'd like to repeat the challenge. If anyone is able to disprove some of the previous predictions made, which are on my website and elsewhere on YouTube that are publicly verifiable, I'd love to have an intellectual conversation on that as well.
That's really amazing. And guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my channel. This channel has trended Astrology Podcasts in 2024. So like, share, subscribe. And thank you, Abhigya, once again. Namaste.
Dhanyavad. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Lots of love.